Well, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had some interesting words about the U.S. Constitution, which is, of course, a document that she upholds on a daily basis when she sits on the U.S. Supreme Court, although her critics would deny that. During a trip to Cairo last week, Justice Ginsburg told a reporter that Egypt's revolutionaries should not use the U.S. Constitution as a model for their new government. Instead, she has another country's founding document in mind. Take a listen.
I would not look to the U.S. Constitution if I were drafting a Constitution in the year 2012. I might look at the Constitution of South Africa. That was a deliberate attempt to have a fundamental instrument of government that embraced basic human rights, had an independent judiciary. It really is, I think, a great piece of work that was done.
Can't you just hear the critics of the High Court now, in particular those on the left, critics of the justices who are on the left, working with that clip? Joining me now, Leslie Marshall, a syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor, and Lars Larson, also a syndicated radio host. You know, Lars, I have to say, O'Reilly and I have been dueling about Justice Ginsburg for a while, and he doesn't really believe that she's a big believer in upholding the Constitution. I can foresee the segments that he is going to do on this, and I can also foresee that you are going to be on his side.
I think we should grant Justice Ginsburg an honorary spot on the aforementioned Ninth Circus Court out in California, the most reversed court in the world that gets reversed by the Supreme Court all the time. She is a de minimis member of the Supreme Court. She is anti-American, and she regularly says in her... She's anti-American because she regularly says that our court decisions should be guided by courts in Europe and decisions in Europe and other places in the world. First of all, she recommends South Africa. Have you looked at that Constitution? I have. It says that everything is right. Food, water, shelter, everything. And she refers to Canada as a better place to look for a model for a new Constitution for Egypt. Canada has hate speech laws built into their Constitution so that you can actually be punished like Mark Steyn was for saying the wrong words. Those aren't the constitutions that an American justice should point toward.
Now, I got to challenge you on saying Justice Ginsburg is anti-American just because she looks to international law. It is a very controversial thing to do, I grant you. Some of the left judges on the court do it, but you can't call her un-American. Look at her. She served her country faithfully. They don't get a lot of dough to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court. You know, she could have made a lot more money out in private practice, but she sits up there and she's one of the only women.
Can we get her a job somewhere else?
Don't call her anti-American. Drawing the line there. Leslie? Does he have a point, however? Does he have a point, however, that when you're sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court and you're asked about the Constitution for Egypt, maybe it's not a great idea to say, I don't know about that U.S. Constitution.
Megan, I'm going to say, let's look at what she said in its full context. And this is what she said. Our original Constitution, she said, had no women involved in the creation or writing of it. She also said that our original Constitution was not only unfair to women, Native Americans, and immigrants. She also spoke about how the men in Philadelphia who wrote this were smart. She speaks about of, for, and by the people, we the people, our First Amendment, all of the merits of this Constitution, checks and balances, an independent judiciary, etc. What she is clearly saying is today, in writing a constitution, and she said specifically, she gave examples of South Africa and Canada, but she also spoke of looking to all the constitutions of the world before writing their own. We, the people in America, have a constitution for we Americans. What's best for America may not be best for Egypt.
Go ahead, Lars.
Leslie, let me correct something you said. You say that she said look to all the constitutions. She specifically said, I would not look to the U.S. Constitution. And I'd ask Megan. Megan's a lawyer. I'm not. Has the U.S. Constitution served women well today in 2012? I believe that it serves all Americans well. And I think Ginsburg is being anti-American to say, I would not look to the American Constitution, look to these other documents elsewhere.
Well, couldn't it just be, though, Leslie, that she thinks for a country like Egypt, emerging now in today's day and age, there might be a model that's better suited for the Egyptian people? I mean, not everybody has in their soul the spirit and the resolve and the goals and the desires that the American people have.
Absolutely. I visited Egypt in '96 when Mubarak was the president. It's a very different Egypt today. However, if you notice, the youth that started that movement, incredible, and overthrew a dictator, they don't want entire separation of mosque and state, which is in our First Amendment. They're a very different country, a very different culture. So what works and is best, as I said earlier, for the United States entirely may not be in 100% in the best interest of the Egyptian people. This is their country, their government, and they need to form their constitution, not just copy ours.
You know, there's a piece out there,
But
Lars,
Leslie,
I think it's from Liberty Counsel, that talks about how they believe that this is, they find it distressing, and they talk about how she's entrusted with the duty to interpret the Constitution. So it's unacceptable for her to, quote, fail to respect the authority of that document. Did she fail to respect its authority by this comment?
She did fail to respect its authority in saying it is not a good model for today's world, and instead pointing to a constitution like South Africa. That place is a train wreck. It has failed its people. If she seems to think that the people of Egypt deserve the fate of South Africa, that place is terrible right now. It has failed its people, and she thinks their constitution is a good model, and America is not. America's constitution has served its people well for more than 200 years. South Africa has failed its people.
It does seem that she's very focused on human rights. And, you know, this is a big debate. It's not that the right-leaning justices on the High Court don't believe in human rights, but the criticism of some of the leftist judges, Leslie, is that they think everything is a fundamental right, everything, as opposed to just leaving it to the state legislatures or the lawmakers to decide, okay, this is a right, this isn't. They leave it to 9 justices wearing black robes to tell us what our rights are and what they aren't.
You know, not every Christian who reads the Bible believes every word of the Bible or would have arguments or questions about it and its interpretation. Much with our justices, I believe if you sat him down and hooked him up to a lie detector test and said, do you really like that? What would you change? And Lars, you guys over there on the right are constantly trying to amend the Constitution, flag burning, a baby whose mother's illegal, born in this country, can they be American, etc. So you obviously think it needs improvement if you would like
Leslie,
to change it. She is not anti-American, Lars. You know why? She is doing exactly what we Americans are allowed to do: speak freely without without being thrown in jail.
Leslie, I'm not trying to deny free speech, but she suggests that these other constitutions where rights appear to come from a government document. In America, we believe that rights to human beings come from God, and that government's #1 function is to protect those rights and make sure that nobody takes them away, including government.
All right,
Sorry,
panel, thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Megan.
De minimis justice.